People watch new anime all the time. There's entire websites made for just documenting what's going to come out soon and when exactly it will. But manga's different than that. There's no real schedule for the release of manga, and as such a lot of manga don't get any attention before they come out, and when they do come out, they don't get attention for a few years or so, or sometimes even never. That's why I compiled this list of manga I have found that are pretty new and haven't hit it big yet that I highly recommend everyone to check out. The rules are 2014 release at the oldest, and they can't have any adaptation of any kind. Sorry, Hero Academia. In 2014, the manga magazine Lala released Mizutama Honey Boy by Junko Ike. Mizutama Honey Boy is different from your standard shoujo because, whoa, would you look at that? The boy and the girl both have personalities! Mei Sengoku is fierce and sharp, and she's also the captain of the kendo team. Shiro Fuji is a feminine crybaby who's friends with Mei and ends up crushing on her as well. This manga is sugary sweet, and the switch gender role gimmick makes it work really well, and it makes it a lot more interesting than countless other shoujo high school romances we've seen in the past. Thanks for breaking the mold, Oremono. If you're a shoujo fan of any kind, I highly recommend you check this new shoujo out. In 2015, Shonen Ace released Hajimete no Gal by Meguru Ueno. Now, don't judge a book by its cover on this one. This isn't ecchi garbage, it's only ecchi trash. Gal is about Junichi Hashiba, who gets dared into asking out the hot Gyaru girl of the school, Yukana Yame. She says yes, and it's great. This series properly works up the ecchi, and uses Yukana's sexiness to work up Junichi's nervousness for some pretty great humor. A lot of the teasing and misunderstandings are really well done in this series, and there's some genuinely cute moments too. But overall, this series is kind of just a shitpost, but at least it realizes the shitpost, and that's good. As one of my friends put it best, this is just the manga equivalent of a real-life dating simulator with commentary by the Game Grumps. End quote. In 2014, Urasunde released Helk by Nanaki Nanao. Helk is about a demon king who had recently been defeated, and a contest is held to decide who will be the next king. Unexpectedly, the #1 candidate in this contest happens to be a human named Helk. Because of certain circumstances, Helk hates the humans now, and wants to become the demon king to defeat his own race. In comes Vimirio, who is one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon Empire. She's suspicious of Helk and doesn't trust that he is actually against the humans. This series is full of wacky antics of Vimirio trying to stop Helk, and Helk's greatness getting in her way. The relationship between the two is great, and they play off each other really well. Despite its goofy beginnings, the plot gets pretty serious after a while, as more and more gets revealed. Also, it's like the only time I've seen a Demon King-centered plot outside of a light novel-related work. Speaking of light novels, in 2014, Comic Flapper put out Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation, the manga adaptation of a light novel by the same name, written by Rigujin na Magonote. Just like any and all light novels these days, Mushoku Tensei is about a NEET who gets sent to a fantasy world by dying. What sets us apart from others is that he gets reincarnated into the body of a baby named Rudis Greyrat, but he also keeps his old memories as well. Being a baby with the mind of a 34-year-old leads to some pretty interesting setups and interactions. He becomes a magical prodigy, and the plot takes off from there. What I love most about this series is that Rudis loathes his previous life, and he genuinely wants to live a better one in this universe. And it's always a treat whenever we get to see his inner self speaking. There's also another great light novel Trapped in the Fantasy World manga adaptation that came out recently, and I'll give that an honorable mention. The Rising of the Shield Hero is about Naofumi Iwatani, who gets sent to a fantasy world where everyone gets a weapon, and he gets the shield. He's a dickwad anti-hero who is a joy to watch on his adventures, and while I'm not personally a big fan of this series, I can tell it's really well made. And for more honorable mentions, there are 2 manga out there about being trapped in a virtual world that aren't light novel adaptations. First, there's Real Account, which is about people who use this app called Real Account. It's similar to Twitter or Tumblr. Get sucked into a virtual world where if you die, all of your followers die as well. And Yakushoku Dystopiary, whatever, which is great because it has fun creative job classes, including the main character's job class, which I don't want to spoil. Seriously, just go read the manga, don't look anything up about it. In 2014, Harta put out Dungeon Meshi by Ryoko Kui. Dungeon Meshi, or as I like to call it, Is It Wrong to Cook Meals in a Dungeon, is about the adventurer Lias who loses one of his companions in a dungeon. As a way to save money, he decides the best course of action is to kill, cook, and eat monsters in the dungeon. Each monster gets its own nutritional stat chart, and not only do they kill monsters for food, but for other resources as well. This series takes a goddamn ridiculous premise and rolls with it flawlessly, making for a manga that is nothing if not interesting. What impresses me the most about this series is that when the going actually gets tough for our heroes, the fight scenes this author pulls off are pretty legit. It's selling really well in Japan right now, so an anime in a few years wouldn't surprise me at all. In 2015, Weekly Shonen Magazine put out The Fire Brigade of Flames by Atsushi Okubo, the author of Soul Eater. Fire Brigade of Flames is about firefighters fighting fires, and by that, I mean it's about people, some with, some without, fire powers, are tasked with fighting people who spontaneously combust into evil fire people. In particular, there's Shinra, who has fiery hot feet and joins the Fire Brigade so we can find out more about his lost brother. This series makes fire powers unique, interesting, and fresh again, with each character having their own special way of using fire. The premise may sound dumb to some, but Soul Eater's premise was just as dumb, and that series is a classic. And hopefully this series will be too. Honorable mention time! Zatch Bell's author made a new manga this year, also in Weekly Shonen Magazine, called Vector Ball. Barely any chapters have been translated so far, and it's dumber and danker than Zatch Bell already. It has a cool mystery, and one of my favorite motivations for a main character I've seen in a while. So check it out while it's new. If you go to our manga for about half a second, you'll find Tomo-chan wa Onanoko, or Tomo-chan's a Girl, published in Twee 4 by Fumita Yamagita in 2015. Initially intimidating due to its long chapter count, this manga is a really quick read because each chapter is one page. That's it. And it's hilarious. It's about Tomo Aizawa, who confesses to her crush, who happens to be her childhood friend. He happens to be an idiot that doesn't understand what she means at all, and so this high school romance comedy begins. The novelty of one page a chapter alone makes this manga worth checking out, but it's definitely one of the funnier things out there at the moment. If gut-busting comedy is what you want, check out Tomo-chan. In 2014, Big Comic Spirits released the irrationally named Dead Demons DDDD Destruction by Inio Asano, who you may know as the author of Goodnight Poon-Poon. DDDD, as I'm gonna call it, is about an alien race invading Japan and the guerrilla warfare between the humans and the aliens. Except that's not what the manga focuses on. Instead, it focuses on the mundane story of a group of middle school girls as they do middle school girl things, like talk about boobs, play video games, go on dates with cute boys in their class, go on dates with cute boys about twice their age, you know, normal stuff. This manga is able to tell fun little stories, but with a constant fear always looming off in the distance. And that looming threat is amplified whenever the girls have to deal with it in some way. DDDD makes for a very engaging and spine-chilling read. Jump manga is almost always good. Almost. So Jump magazines are the place to go for new manga a lot of the times. There's almost too much to talk about, but here's a few Weekly Shonen Jump manga as honorable mentions. Hinamaru Zumo is about a high schooler who wants to become a sumo wrestler despite his shortness and lack of popularity in the sport. It's super intense and will hopefully have Tumblr be obsessed with big bara men if this gets an anime. Kimetsu no Yaiba is about a boy whose sister gets bitten by a demon, and he becomes a demon hunter not only to avenge her, but to try and stop her transformation into a demon as well. Sounds cool? It is. Samon the Summoner is about the asshole Samon who forces the nicest girl in school to do his bidding, and it's so funny. The director of Osamatsu-san, Binbogami ga, and Gintama, probably the 3 funniest animes ever, expressed interest in making an anime of this already, so that will be perfect. Yuna of the Uragi Manor is your typical ecchi harem trash, but it's better than a lot of other Jump ecchi series like To Love Ru or Lady Justice, so that's a huge plus. But out of all the new Weekly Shonen Jump manga, I'd have to say my favorite is... no. In 2015, Weekly Shonen Jump put out Straighten Up! Welcome to the Shika High's Competitive Dance Club by Takuma Yokota, who, interestingly enough, is the creator of Molester Man and the artist of Masturbation Master Kurosawa. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Trust me, those are both good manga. Straighten Up is about Watari and Tsuchiya, a girl and a boy freshmen who are nothing special. They join the school's dance club and it's adorable. All of the characters are lovable and they all dance to real songs, which is great. They dance to stuff from the Frozen soundtrack, to Michael Jackson songs, to even a One Direction song at one point. Coming from an author who had his roots in 2 channels, it's obviously pretty genre-savvy and self-aware, and on top of that, it depicts anxiety really well. As far as I'm concerned, Straighten Up has it in the bag for being a well-known Shonen Jump classic. Fun fact, there are other Jump magazines out there where I'll be finding more honorable mentions. In Jump Square, we have Platinum End and Shonen Shoujo, which are from the duos behind Death Note / Bakuman and Madoka Box respectively. One is about angels fighting to see who will become God, and the other is about a boy trying to kill a girl with the same disease as him for his own dumb personal gain. Both are great. There's also Shonen Jump Plus, which has Fire Punch, which is about, okay, stay with me now, a world controlled by someone with ice powers while the main character has immortal regeneration powers and is lit on fire by a guy who lights fires that can't go out, so the main character is just constantly on fire forever and goes across the frozen wasteland fire punching people for years. And that's just chapter 1. Finally, we make it to Young Jump Weekly, which has my #1 favorite recent manga. In 2014, Satoru Noda's Golden Kamui was released, and oh my god is it fantastic! Golden Kamui is historical and takes place in northern Japan after the Russo-Japanese War of the Meiji era. Sugimoto, who earned his nickname Sugimoto the Immortal from never dying in the war he just fought in, wants to make it rich during the current gold rush to help out the wife of his recently deceased war comrade. There he finds Asirpa, an Ainu girl, whose knowledge of the North helps save Sugimoto's life. Together, the two find out that various criminals have parts of a map tattooed on their back, a map that'll lead to treasure. Right away, this premise is kick-ass, but what sells me the most on this series is its excellent comedy. This series feels like an Edgar Wright film half the time, while it's balancing its epic story with its utter hilarity. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that this is one of the funniest things out there at the moment, and I hope it continues to pull off its unique comedy-action-drama blend. There's also tons of historical information in this manga, so it makes for a pretty decently educational read as well. With great representation of Ainu and lovable characters all around, Golden Kamui is easily one of the best manga to come out in quite some time.